I was deeply unsatisfied with the Michael movie, and for two reasons. The first reason is because it left me thirsting for more Jaafar Jackson's performance of his uncle. But the second reason is that I think it didn't capture Michael Jackson as a whole and who he truly was. The movie focused mostly on him as a performer. So, welcome to my YouTube channel, and in this video, I'm going to be diving into the Michael Jackson movie and making some comparisons with his autobiography, the Moonwalk book, and things that I think the movie omitted and things I also loved about the movie. So to start with, the movie obviously approaches this as Michael as a performer rather than fully as a person, and it starts with Michael in Gary, Indiana, with his brothers and how he experiences domestic abuse. His father, who is the main antagonist of the story, and how him and his brothers went from singing in different places to finally getting signed by Motown Records, to becoming the Jackson 5, to moving to Los Angeles and kickstarting their music career. And from there, the movie focuses on Michael Jackson's milestone. It focuses on him separating from his brothers, Off the Wall, Thriller. We get to see the Pepsi incident, and then finally it ends with his performance of Bad. And that's essentially the structure of the movie. And again, it feels like the movie is missing some important in-between moments and also a lot of key characters. We understand that Diana Ross is not portrayed in this movie. We also understand that a lot of the cases with the allegations against Michael were unable to be portrayed due to legal reasons. Janet Jackson refused to take part in the project, and Paris Jackson did not endorse the movie of her father. So these things allow us to question whether or not this movie is something we should actually enjoy. Obviously, I still love the movie, so I'm going to go into things I loved about it, despite these factors, despite the things that weren't included, and despite the backlash or what the critics said. So the first thing I loved about the movie was the quality. I think it was really good quality. The performances, it almost felt like I was at a Michael Jackson concert. So the movie was, again, it helped me to understand him as a performer, and also his performances, they were so dear to me. I think that when we get the transition from Don't Stop Till You Get Enough, when he does the album Off the Wall, and we start to see this new Michael and how he's developing into this independent self, it was just beautiful to watch. I think that the editing was really good, because I mean, they had to edit from 4 hours to 2 hours, so the editing was good in that sense. And I love the performances, human nature. Oh my god, it was so good. I love Thriller, everything. Getting to see the behind the scenes of Michael and how he thinks, how he comes to create such legendary masterpieces, all of that. So that's what we kind of get to see with his performances. And I think that with how Jaafar portrayed his uncle, it was just so beautiful, because I don't think anyone else could have done it the way he did it, because essentially he understood how delicate portraying Michael Jackson is in the movie, because again, there's the potential for a lot of backlash, and he understood that, and he really did his very best to capture his uncle. So despite the movie not really going into certain things about Michael, we still felt this connection. We felt like we were watching Michael. It was more spiritual, if that makes any sense. So I think that he knew what he had to do, and he really put in the work. He really deeply wanted his uncle to be captured on the screen, and we really felt it. We really felt the love he put into his uncle's performance, into his uncle's character rather. So that was one thing. And I think the Grammy scene where he holds his uncle's actual Grammys and he's smiling, he looks like just like Michael. And we see that in Bad, we see that in Billie Jean. I made this comparison, and I said that putting Michael Jackson's performance of Billie Jean and Jaafar's performance of Billie Jean side by side, that I think Jaafar outdanced his uncle, just because, I mean, he did have more time to practice, and Michael does a lot of improv, but still, I think we kind of see that like he really put passion into portraying his uncle. And I really deeply respected that. So I think young Michael was also portrayed in the movie, and we see Michael how he obviously experiences abuse, but also there's a scene in the movie where he's watching young boys in the park, kids his age, playing outside, and he simply can't join them. And I've read Michael's Moonwalk, and in Moonwalk, Michael says that he never really got to be a child. He's been performing since the age of 5. Although the movie doesn't really capture like how much work he actually had to put in, because Michael said he's been doing this since before he could remember. So I start recalling events. So I think that the movie tries to capture the work the boys did, but doesn't fully capture how much work Michael had to put in. He was like working, he was a working child, so the movie didn't really capture that part of it, but it was still good. The way it captured how left out he was as a kid, and I think like that was deeply deeply impeccable. I also like the fact that there were moments of humor because I heard that like when they had to edit the movie again, that they had to kind of infuse moments of humor with. I think one of the funniest moments was the bringing bubbles and the reaction the family gave and also had rather, and also Michael firing, having to fire his dad and all of that. So there were a lot of funny moments in the show, and getting to understand Michael and how he thinks and how he comes up with his beats and his music was so good. I really really loved it, and I'm just glad I could kind of partake in it to be able to witness greatness. I think that was what was so deeply deeply important to me, and how much Michael loved his craft and the passion he put into it. Yes. So I will then go into things that I think the movie didn't do as well, and things in comparison to obviously Michael's perspective, his autobiography, and things about his life, and the things the movie didn't do as well. So I think the first thing was how, for me, was how the relationships were portrayed in the movie. I think that Michael was portrayed as very distant from his brothers. And the truth is, he was a lot closer to them, and they didn't grow distant until they started getting married and they had to worry about their own families. So that's what Michael sees in Moonwalk, his book. So it seems that Michael is portrayed as this like very segregated and kept away from his brothers because I mean he is different. He knows that he's special, but I think it's a bit exaggerated in the movie, and the relationship between brothers wasn't as explored. I also think that the intricacies about the brothers weren't also explored because, I mean, they were greatly involved in the production of the movie. So it seems that everyone was trying to kind of keep portray themselves in a like good light instead of actually showing what really happened. So I think the brothers were obviously trying to kind of keep their image clean, and that's one thing. And I also think that the father as an antagonist, I think that there was a lot more to Michael and what made him who he was. And I think that firstly, working since he was 5 years old, his father, yes, but also the antagonism between brothers. And I also think that one thing that's also overlooked is the conflict from Hollywood itself and what it means to be a child star and having that many people, fans all over the world, being obsessed with you. I think that greatly affected him because again in Moonwalk, Michael said that when he was younger, he would perform in adult environments, so with like girls and strippers and all of that. And as a young boy, he shouldn't be seeing that. So the movie didn't really capture it. The movie really just wanted to portray him as this innocent little boy, and even as Europe, they still kind of clung to this innocent, infantilized image of Michael. And Michael was also in romantic relationships, which the movie also refused to portray. So I think that it was really, really, really um, like one of the biggest flaws, the fact that they didn't portray that, and they also didn't portray his image issues well, because I think the nose issue, I think it's pretty complicated because it just kind of simplified it and said he didn't like how he looked and his dad called him big nose. But I think that um, image issues, especially for like black children and people of color, like I think it runs deeper than that as well. I think that he said he didn't want to look like his father, first of all, in an interview once. And I just think that his struggle with vitiligo and his struggle with like how he looked, I think it was not properly explored because of how delicate it is, and a lot of people struggling with, like, not even struggling, but who experience vitiligo, and also a lot of black people who have image issues. I think that that was really crucial, a crucial part of Michael's life, and I don't think it was really explored. I really, really, really wish it was, because I think it would be like kind of a good thing for people to really talk about, and would have been really good for discussions after the movie. But the movie just failed to deliver in that aspect. I also think that Diana Ross and his relationship with her was completely glossed over, because when they first moved to LA, they lived with Diana Ross, and that was completely ignored. And Michael described Diana Ross in his book as his mother, his sister, and his lover. And imagine having such a complicated relationship with a woman, and she was so much older than him. So I think that that was a really crucial part about his development and his growth as a person, and how he didn't even move on from her. Like, it took a while for him to be able to finally move on. So I get that people like The movie was really nice, but I think that that was really, really important, and I wish it was kind of portrayed. And the obviously the allegations were unable to be portrayed due to legal reasons, and I completely get that. I completely understand it, so I get why that wasn't there. And I also think that the movie does help us understand him as a person, as a performer rather, but less as a person. And even when he expresses this burn with the Pepsi incident and everything, like we get to see like how what he's driven by, his passion, his love for people. That's what drove him, and he understands that he carries this thing, this light in him. This thing is passion that really affects people. He understood that, and he wanted to use it for the greater good. He wanted to use it to help other people. And in his book, he said he was tired, very often tired. That at the age of 24, he felt tired because at that age he'd been performing for 20 years of his life. So he felt old, and he had this feeling he wouldn't live long. And I think it was obviously because of how much little time he had to rest, how much time he actually was working since he was a kid. So I think that really affected him, and I don't think the movie really captured that. I don't think it did at all. So I think finally, um, he also said that he didn't want to be seen. He didn't like being seen, and he always wore his glasses. And this was in his book, by the way. He always wore his glasses, and he said that um, when people looked into his eyes, they were looking into his soul, and he didn't want them to see him because he was sad. And for him to say something like that, it meant that like all of these things, all of these external factors, all of his family, his upbringing really, really affected him to that extent. And his image issues, being unable to even look into the mirror and look at himself. So the movie really failed to capture that essence of him, that part of him. I mean, when he won the Grammys, and when he just took off his glasses during his speech and was like, I'll just take it off for the girls in the back. And he didn't want to take off his glasses. He did not want to. Like, he didn't want to be seen. And I think people fail to grasp that, and how much having these many fans really, 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 really affected him. And I think that watching the movie was definitely a privilege. It was a privilege to be able to go into the cinema and to see Michael and to see his performance and to see like how much he cared and the amount of passion he put into his craft and his artistry and his hard work. Because in his autobiography, Michael said that he would since he was young, he would absorb things, he would watch performances. He really dedicated time to it. The movie didn't capture it that far, but it did capture how much time he put into it. So I think that was like deeply, deeply important. And I felt moved by his voice, his movement, and how much he's connected to his music. And I wish he was protected as a child. I wish that his life had been less of a struggle. I wish he had a childhood. I really, really wish that his name is cleared of all allegations, that we can actually get to believe at some point that Michael didn't do what these allegations say. But again, I think that it's really good after the movie to really reflect and to understand that the movie really infantilizes him, because in the Twister scene where he's holding Twister and asks his brother to play with him, it evokes this emotion from the crowd where they're like, the audience, where they're like, I would play Twister with Michael, like, but the truth is that Michael is more complex than Twister, and being this kid who is still connected to his childhood and his love for animals, which is obviously portrayed in the movie as well, and his love for like kid stories, Peter Pan, all of that is portrayed in the movie. But again, it's just important to understand that he's portrayed as this very innocent man when in reality he's been exposed to a lot of terrible things. So I think that what is important to know is that rather than having these extremist views of Michael, either as this completely infantilized man or as this demonized person, I think Michael is somewhere in between. And I just wish we could understand more of him. But I mean, the fact that he didn't want to be seen shows how much he was carrying, and I really wish that he could have been helped. But I think that it's important to understand and take away something from this movie, and I think one of it is that when people grow up in the limelight, it can really, really affect their image, how they see themselves, what they think about themselves, and if they don't have a good support system, it can really, 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 really destroy them. So I think that we haven't seen anyone like Michael ever. He's a once in a lifetime, once in like there's only one Michael, so like we've never seen anyone with this much influence and this much power, passion in his voice, and this much talent. And we've seen it in this one human being, and we've seen the effect it had on multiple people, but the effect and terrible effect it also had on him. And I think it's important to learn from it. And a lot of people with this parasocial relationship with celebrities, it's important to take a step back. And it's also important that we question Hollywood and what they do to child stars and what they do to children as a whole, and how terrible it is, and even ourselves, and how we treat children and how we relate with each other, and just to learn from the love that he carried and the passion he carried. And I just really respect the amount of work that was put into this movie and into portraying him. And despite how many things were missing, it showed that like Jafar really cared about his uncle and really wanted us to feel something, and we really did feel it. I felt it, a lot of people felt it, the audience felt it. And yes, this is just a tribute to him, to Michael, and to his legacy. And if anyone hasn't watched the movie yet, this is your sign to watch it. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe. Bye for now.